We're here because we're part of the Live Well Foundation with San Diego County to Health and Human Services. We had a great morning this morning. Chelsea got an opportunity to do a couple of site visits here in town. She's not just here for the Roundtable as well, but we got a great opportunity to see, and I actually had that opportunity to visit with some of the people, Reggie and Arturo and Pastor Sandoval over at Project Aware. And you want to talk about what's happening with the Grassroots Foundation. It's unbelievable. And as Pastor Sandoval says, this is the grass tops of the foundation. So this is a great opportunity to hear from both sides. You're going to get to hear from some of these kids here a little bit later and their stories and what's taking place at the grassroots of this whole thing. But welcome to this roundtable. We're excited that you're here, and we hope that you take this opportunity to take some of this back today to the people that you can help influence. I'd like to bring up Maura Pally right now with the vice chair of the Clinton Foundation to give us a little bit more about why we're here today and introduce some other speakers. Maura, take it away.
Thank you so much. I'm going to follow the precedent and not use the mic, but if you can't hear me, if I'm messing up anything, I will go back to that, but this is just a better way to both say welcome. We're so pleased to have all of you here today, and also to say thank you for having us. We are here for the San Diego community, and you are the San Diego community. From the Clinton Foundation, we work on civic engagement, public health, and economic opportunity. And in our community-based work, we do exactly what we're doing here, which is act as a neutral convener to work with community stakeholders to identify community priorities and help drive those issues forward. And we couldn't ask for a better community and a more committed community than San Diego, and to work on issues of improving quality and opportunities for youth, both in the juvenile justice system and in the child welfare system. We have worked in numerous communities over the years, and none have identified this issue as a priority as you have. And it is a very challenging issue, and we applaud you for picking it, because there are none that are more critical to the success and health of a community than child welfare. And picking the most challenging aspects says a lot about this community. So we are very appreciative to be here, to be invited here. We've been working incredibly closely with great partners from the San Diego Foundation as well as the County of San Diego. And we have convened over and talked with over 100 organizations from the community. And the dedication in this community is palpable and exciting and inspiring. And we really look forward to seeing the progress that happens in the months and years ahead. And today we wanted to bring together this group to hear more about what progress has already been made and what opportunities and challenges still remain and how to address them. We are thrilled to have Chelsea Clinton here with us to talk about this issue. She is personally incredibly committed to child welfare, to juvenile justice, and to these issues, so it is wonderful to have her here today. And we look forward to hearing all of the discussions and further conversations both this afternoon and then afterward. But thank you for having us, and thank you for being here. And with that, I want to turn it to our great partner, Connie Matsui from the San Diego Foundation, to take it from here.
Welcome, everyone. It's wonderful to have you here. We do have a wonderful afternoon of learning and engagement to look forward to, and we are going to be discussing some innovative solutions that will improve the lives of San Diego's children and families. The Strong Families, Thriving Communities initiative started 2 years ago as a partnership between the San Diego Foundation, County of San Diego, and the Clinton Foundation. But it has become so much more. We've mobilized more than 100 stakeholders and coalition members who are fully committed and engaged in this effort. A human-centered solutions approach for children and families in the child welfare and juvenile justice systems. It's definitely a complex and lengthy process with challenges that won't immediately be overcome. But we are learning together, we are working together, and we are so grateful to the Wake Foundation, the California Endowment, the Diane Johnson Fund at the San Diego Foundation, and many other donors who have believed in this effort and supported with their donations. Our funding need will continue as we put into action all that we have learned. We believe that by addressing systemic gaps, we will increase the number of children and families who are getting all of the help that they need. The solutions that all of us identify and implement together will create pathways for children to succeed and our region to thrive. Before I welcome our next speaker to the podium, or maybe out front, I'd like to acknowledge the other board members from the San Diego Foundation who are here. Our board chair, Constance Carroll. And I believe it's PK Coleman here. PK, welcome. Is there anyone else I've missed? Again, this is a collective effort from all of us. So now I'd like to welcome San Diego County District 4 Supervisor Nathan Fletcher. Supervisor Nathan Fletcher is a United States Marine Corps combat veteran, former member of the California Assembly, and a professor at the University of California, San Diego. He is a dedicated public servant who's earned a reputation for getting things done and making a difference in people's lives. Supervisor Fletcher's priorities are focused on improving the quality of life for people who live and work in San Diego County. Please join me in welcoming Supervisor Fletcher.
Thank you, Connie, and thank you everyone who's here. It's a tremendous honor to be here to offer a few welcoming remarks. My connection with the Clinton family in general started in the 4th grade. I was a young son in a household of a factory worker and a social worker in a tiny rural town in South Arkansas called Smackover, Arkansas. We had a population of 1,100 people. We had one stoplight that worked most of the time. They said our school colors were black and white. We were too poor to afford color. But I did a field trip to the Capitol, which for me was a big thing. I went to Little Rock, which was a booming, from Smackover, oh my gosh, it's so big. And in a small state, we were fortunate in that we had the opportunity to meet the governor at the time. And that was Governor Bill Clinton. And I was fortunate that that was an era before iPhones, when they had to change the film, and the film got changed while I was standing there, and had an opportunity to talk to him and have an actual black and white, and none of y'all know what the actual picture, black and white picture, but I'm grateful for the entire Clinton family, for President Clinton, for Secretary Clinton, for Chelsea Clinton, for a lifetime of service to helping others. There's a lot of things this family could have done with their life, and they've chosen to dedicate it to helping us, and so we're grateful for the entire family and everything that you've done throughout your life. So we appreciate everything that Clinton's done. Thank you. So I have the greatest job in the world. I have the absolute greatest job in the world. So many people have a job because you have to pay the bills, and you have to feed your kids, and you have to provide health care. And then outside of that vocation, you have to go find purpose and meaning in other ways, coaching a youth sport team, or volunteering for a nonprofit, or maybe donating your money. But thanks to the incredible fortune of 68% of the voters of the 4th Supervisorial District, I get paid to get up every single day and try and help others. My vocation is my purpose. And it's an incredible blessing, and it's not one that for 1 minute I take for granted. And I'm fortunate to have an amazing team of folks who help, and I want to say a particular thank you to our county workers who are here today, who go out every single day and do that same work, and it's difficult and it's hard. They're social workers, they're public health nurses, they're folks working in restorative justice, and so I know we have some county workers here, and I just want to say I'm grateful to all of you as well, so thank you very much. And then lastly, thanks, my colleague Supervisor Greg Cox, who got the county into this partnership through leadership and vision and foresight. And I've been fortunate to just have it handed off as the newest member of the board to take it and work forward as we go forward. And I'm excited about what we continue to do together. Because as a supervisor for my office and my tenure on the board, I've outlined the 2 priorities that are of most importance to me, are mental health and substance abuse. And that is one issue. Those are not 2 issues, that is one issue. And we have to look at those 2 issues together. And the second is issues surrounding children, ensuring that every child is safe and is loved and has provided a better future. The foundation, in my opinion, of the American dream is the equality of opportunity. There is no equality of outcome, but there is supposed to be an equality of opportunity. Equality of opportunity and equality of access to the American dream means that every child has health care. It means that every child has clean air and clean water. It means that every child has education. It means that every child has a just justice system. And so when we have situations, like in my district, where one neighborhood, one group of children wait longer for an ambulance than other children, that's inconsistent with the foundation of the American dream. Because there's nothing that says that one group of kids have to wait longer if they're choking. When we have a situation where we have schools that have modern infrastructure and clean water in one neighborhood, and then we have other neighborhoods that have lead in the water, which is incredibly damaging to young brains. That's inconsistent with the notion of equality of access to the American dream. When we have a situation where one group of kids, primarily white, middle and upper income, whose parents are overprescribed prescription drug pills, are rightly viewed as having an illness of addiction, and that's correct. But you have another group of kids who are addicted to a different substance, who are still societally viewed as a public safety risk. That's inconsistent with the notion of equal access to the American dream. In one neighborhood in my district, a child born in La Jolla today will live 10 years longer than a child born in the other part of my district in City Heights. That's not right. And that's not who we are. And that's why all of us are here today. That's why all of us continue to work and to strive to make sure that we can see progress in ensuring that equality of access and equality of opportunity to the American dream. As a combat veteran of the United States Marine Corps, I am incredibly grateful and heartened for all of the focus on mental health treatment for veterans, because it's important. But studies will show you that foster kids are twice as likely to suffer from post-traumatic stress as combat veterans. And I've never seen a single beer commercial talking about helping the kids and their families. We do have an obligation to care for those who protect us, but we have an equally great obligation to protect those we care most about. And that's our vulnerable children who, through no fault of their own, have been put in these horrific situations. So we come together and we say we have to do better. And we acknowledge that better sameness won't make substantive progress in what we're trying to do. And so we come up with solutions, we come up with ideas, we come up with a series of bold action items. And I'm incredibly grateful to the Clinton Foundation, the San Diego Foundation, and all the partners who are here who have been a part of this to help pave the way for what policymakers need to do, to make the ideals and the goals and the things outlined a reality. And most importantly, I hope that this partnership in progress continues so we can see specific and actionable policy things that are measurable, that are tangible, that have a measure of accountability on their progress, that are actually improving the lives of kids to make sure they have that. If we take bold ideas and goals and we match it with specific changes and challenges that we have to make, if we support leaders who are willing to say, I believe this is a higher priority than that because it's consistent with our values, then I think that we can continue to make real progress and do a tremendous amount. Assembled in this room are people who have the expertise, the political clout, and the resources to make it happen. Now we just have to continue to have the will to elevate issues that are not always top of mind with everyone in society, issues of children and those who are in most need of help. And so I'm here today to pledge on behalf of my office and the county that you have our absolute full support as we aggressively move forward in trying to meet these goals. I remember reading a quote one time, and it said, some things have to be believed to be seen. And I believe that we can do better, and I believe that pathway to a more perfect union, while not easy, is possible. And it's in large part to all of you who dedicate your life to doing these things each and every day. And it's my tremendous honor to join you today, and I look forward to continuing to work with you. Thank you very, very much. All right, take me back to Steve Atkins and Jenna Taylor.
Thank you, Nathan. By the way, the mic wasn't on for Nathan the whole time. That's just how loud he talks. We're good at that. All right, let's get started with our roundtable. First of all, I want to welcome the Vice Chair of the Clinton Foundation, Ms. Felicity Clinton, to come up here. Thank you very much for being here today. You're going to hear a lot about the work that she does with the Clinton Foundation. She's also the author of the children's series She Persisted, which, by the way, is sold out tonight at USD for the signing. I didn't know if you knew that.
I didn't, so thanks for delivering that good news.
Yes. Strong mother to Charlotte and Aiden, and she and her husband Mark are expecting their third child later this year.
Yes, we are.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Up next, Amy Aparicio Clark is with us here today as well. Amy, where are you? There she is. Okay. Amy is the Managing Director of Community Impact and Strategy for the Aetna Foundation. She's responsible for the day-to-day management of the foundation's community-based grant making. Previous experience includes working with nonprofits to promote education beyond high school for first-generation Latino college goers, and she's a former teacher as well. Thank you for being here today, Amy.
Thank you.
They're from New York and Connecticut, respectively, so welcome to sunny San Diego, where it's always 72 degrees.
Even when it's not.
Even when it's not. And then finally on our panel is Nick Macchione. Nick is with the County of San Diego Health and Human Services. Nick has been doing this job for about 10 years with the County of San Diego, and he's the architect behind the Live Well campaign, which is all about strong families and thriving communities. So welcome our panel here today as we get started. So we're going to try to keep this just maybe a free-flowing conversation. You guys feel free to answer as you wish. If you want to add something else, please do so. If I look at my watch, I apologize. I'm just going to try and keep us on schedule here too. First of all, let's start off with this. Why is it so important for you, your organizations that you work with, and society overall to focus on the lives of children and the families that are impacted by the child welfare system and the juvenile justice system? Chelsea, we'll start with you.
Sure. Well, first, I just want to say thank you to everyone here for taking time out of your busy days. And although you're clearly more accustomed to the sunny weather than we are in New York City at the moment, it's always just particularly gratifying when people choose to be indoors when you have kind of weather like this. And I just want to thank everyone who's here from the county, everyone here from the San Diego Community Foundation, all our partner organizations. We're just at the Clinton Foundation incredibly humbled and excited to be part of this work. To answer your question, in any given year, we have about 630,000 American children who will spend at least part of that year in the foster care system. On any given night, we have about 52 to 53,000 kids who will sleep in a juvenile facility. Those are staggeringly large numbers, and they should feel relevant to all of us. As you mentioned, I think it was the last point of my biography, but it's the most important part of my biography. I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. We're expecting our 3rd this summer. And my children are going to grow up in this country, and I believe that there is no such thing as other people's kids. So I think we all have a responsibility to ensure that every child has every opportunity for a safe, warm, supporting, loving, healthy environment that I know my husband and I are dedicated to giving our children. And yet we know there's so many kind of structural and systemic barriers that prevent that. And so I just want to do whatever I can, not only as someone who's so proud to be part of the foundation, but also as a citizen and a mother, to try to tackle those barriers and also to put those who kind of are living in the system at the center of the conversation, to help not only empower them, but because they're going to help us get to solutions more quickly to ensure that hopefully it is kind of safer, healthier, more equitable, more empowering for them and for the other kids in the system here in San Diego, here in California, and really across the country.
Amy?
So I guess for me, the journey to today actually began as I started my career as a middle school teacher in a suburb right outside of Boston. And right out of college, I was very idealistic. I thought teaching, I bring everything I have to the classroom, to the students. And I can honestly say it was a shock to my system to actually get in that classroom and have to grapple not even just the lesson plans and the administrative pieces of teaching, but the fact that there were certain kids that I wouldn't see for weeks because they were just gone. They would just, be absent from school. Later I learned some of them suffered chronic health conditions. Some of them had to be rushed to the ER on a regular basis. All of this was just sort of, it was like drinking from the fire hose as far as understanding the systemic inequities that were essentially blocking what I thought was my ability to reach the children with the education that I so desperately was committed to give them. I also noticed during homeroom, there were always kids who would get called down to the principal. It was the same ones. And most often, after a while, I started noticing they were Hispanic young men. There were a lot of Hispanic young men in this school. And it wasn't just clicking for me at the time. It was so overwhelming. But I think looking back now, I realized that even though I left teaching, I remained in the nonprofit sector managing research projects that helped young Latino students to pursue college. And it strikes me that in those moments in that classroom, my own education really began about systemic inequities. And how even though my full intention was to deliver the best I could, even as a young teacher, there were so many factors beyond my control that essentially just took out my legs from underneath me. And I think since that point, my quest began to say, what is it? What are those points where if we concentrate our collective energies that we can make a difference? And I think at the Aetna Foundation now, where my role is to manage our community-based investments, I have the very good fortune of seeing what partners across the country, including the Clinton Foundation, are doing to actually mobilize change. And I think that's what drives me every day. I know we have so far to go, but the models of the bright spots that we're seeing in different parts of the country, in Florida, and even in Connecticut, where the Aetna Foundation is headquartered, give me hope and help me to continue, because it can be such an overwhelming issue the more you learn about it. But the bright spots give me light, and oftentimes the bright spots come through hearing the young people themselves speak and give their own stories and inspire me through that lens. So I can't wait for what's in store for us later today.
Nick, how about from the county perspective? What do you see?
Yeah. Well, first, having been a former New Yorker, I can tell you, when I came here 22 years ago, what I discovered, it wasn't the weather, it was the people. It was the people in San Diego that was making this place so special. And I think it's evident by the fact, amazing folks back east throughout the country, but there's an opportunity here. As the director for the Health and Human Service Agency, my vocation and my passion and calling, as Supervisor Fletcher pointed out, is really simple. It's having people live longer and happier, right? And not shorter and grumpier, right? But on a sincere note here, the Institute of Medicine, in their 2011 study, rated the United States to the 16 other industrialized nations, ranked last in life expectancy. And it was titled Shorter Lives, Poor Health. And central to that work was the fact that the other industrialized nations weren't really spending a lot more. We are spending more in sick care, and hopefully now moving more towards health. But it was how the community came together. It was how the social determinants were supporting people, kids, families. And so it struck me clearly that the area wasn't just the disproportionality of kids more in dependency or privation compared to the general population, African American and Latino, Native American and children. It was the disparities. It was the fact that they are living shorter lives, poorer health. And so for those that are very familiar or those that are not, we have a really grand vision here in San Diego. And we call it Live Well San Diego. And it's really simple. It's potent simplicity. It's about getting every San Diegan to live their fullest potential in their life. And so why this matters is when you look at our children in child welfare and probation, they're not living well, right? They're living and experiencing trauma, these fragmented lives, and we have a fragmented system as a whole. So their chances are stacked against them. And so if we believe in what we believe about the full potential of San Diego, then we can only live well when we all live well. And therefore, that is why we really called out the fact that we had to come together beyond just government alone, which cannot do it alone. The government with our community partners, with family members, parents, and the youth themselves to reform ourselves. And I think we'll go into this further. We're seeing some positivity over time. There's so much more we have to do. But the positivity is that during a time when there's a lot of lack of public trust and rancor and non-civility, civility and honor and support to one another exists here at San Diego. And we can be honest with one another of what's working and what's not. And by doing that, we're making, very importantly, improvements not just to the system, but directly to the lives of families. It's about strengthening families, all families, biological families, foster families, adoptive families. And so it excites me that we're moving the paradigm, that it's not just about child welfare, child protection, or probation. It's about how do we strengthen all families? And to do that means it's all of us. And so I'm excited about that, how for us to get to that vision of livable San Diego, this community is helping us achieve it.
Nick brought up the point about what's working and what's not, and we had a great opportunity to hear from some of the youth, which you'll get to hear in our roundtable a little bit later, about what's working for them within the system. So that's my next question is, what is working, Chelsea, and how do we kind of speed up the process of what's working?
Oh, I think that's such an important question. I know following this is a conversation with a couple of the young people that I was lucky enough to hear from earlier. So I will let young people speak for themselves, and I hope in the next panel I say almost nothing, because I want young people to take all of the time. I think, though, to answer your question pointedly, one of the, I think, reasons that we now feel this compulsion, not to be presumptuous, but to sort of speak for us kind of on the panel, or so many of the people who are kind of engaged in this work day in and day out, year after year, is because we finally do really know what works, right? We really do know kind of what works, from how best to support young people, whether they're in child welfare services, in foster care, kind of newly adopted, on probation, in the juvenile system. And so the challenge is, how do we take what we know works from helping ensure there is a sense of kind of safety, assurance, kind of community support, individual support, kind of mentoring, guidance, and ensure that we have enough resources to consistently provide that for every young person. And not only when they're under kind of the aegis of the system, but also kind of when they transition out, or I think the worst use of the word graduate ever, when they graduate from the system. Because it's not only about ensuring that the young people are supported, not only for themselves, but often for their families. So I was so grateful to hear the emphasis on families, kind of when they're in the system, but also kind of when they're out of the system and they're also still quite vulnerable. And so I think the real challenge is, given we do have a lot of evidence and data, how do we know how best to put that into practice? And talking about partnerships, how do we really know kind of who is best equipped to do different parts of that, but in a way that is coordinated and coherent and always centered around the children and the young people who are impacted? And I think the right answer to that, because this is organized so differently in different counties and different states across the country, has to be kind of locally contextualized. But again, thankfully in this room, we know all the right answers for here in San Diego, right? So I think for those of us who are just grateful, like Clinton Foundation, to be in partnership with all of you, what we hope to be able to do is to kind of listen and amplify, the voices, and to make kind of the conclusions inescapable, so that it sort of, in the best sense, kind of inspires, or if necessary, drags us to really where we need to be.
Yeah. Nikki, when you came in, you and Reggie, there was a strong embrace. So that just shows the county and the grassroots system. It's work. What is working? What's developing here in San Diego County?
Our beliefs in each other.
Yeah.
That, I'm a government suit. He's in the community, better looking suit.
He's catching that all on video. I was going to show everyone, but he's the better looking one.
Here's it simple. My fidelity is not to government. My fidelity is not to Mailman School of Public Health that we went to. My fidelity is not to the profession. Our fidelity is to the cause. Our fidelity is how do we get to our families and our youth. I think we don't talk that, but we're doing that. And what I appreciate is that we're getting people to make us look at the mirror and saying, how true is that? And we still have to improve. But it's not just fidelity of what Reggie and I and our professions to the single cause about helping people live well and kids and families that are not. It's all of your fidelities. Now, I'm not saying don't be a banker, don't be a philanthropist, don't be a county supervisor. I'm saying that bring those talents and passions, but bring that fidelity to what we're doing here in San Diego. And that sense of urgency then breaks down those barriers. Reggie needs a band.
Why do you have to say that out loud?
Reggie needs a band. Anyone help? Because he needs a band because he's taking his own time and his own staff going out to all parts of the northern part of the county on their own dime, helping youth. And I am trying to help Reggie get a band. That's how important it is. Our fidelity is to get the type of transportation, we can get the kids, the programs, the services. That's the sense of urgency. And I'm sorry that I said it publicly, but I wanted to illustrate that's just one spoke in the hub, right? And then if you think about this hub and spokes, where are all the spokes? I'm just one spoke. But collectively, if we have the fidelity to that vision, that collective impact, which we're talking about, and have remarkable help from others who can come in and make us think about and challenge us, that is what to me, Steve, that's to me what it's really about in terms of being community.
Yeah. All right. It's a great transition for me to go from that to investment. It's a great example. And Amy, I want to ask you this question. We talked briefly about the grants that you write, because these organizations, they don't exist without financial help. That's true. It's just needed. But it's not just about the investment. It's the volunteerism. It's the other stuff that goes with it, the money, the time. What makes it so important for Aetna to be involved in something like this, and how do you kind of lead by example? Do you see that?
So our approach, beyond the traditional grant-making portfolio that we maintain year over year, is actually evolving, and we're starting to more intentionally invest in the capacity building of our grantees. So not only do they receive the check, even it's a wire transfer, but the check, but they also receive, now we see just as important as that check is the connection of grantees to each other so they can start learning what is working in San Diego, what is working in Jacksonville, Florida. And that is just as important from our point of view because it ensures that whatever learning, whatever insights are occurring can be transferred and hopefully aid in the overall long-term sustainability of the work. So capacity building is so key. We're trying to find, because we are a national funder, our grantees are spread out all over the country. And so one way in which we're pushing ourselves is to how to bring them together in meaningful ways, even though they're not seeing each other in wonderful convenings like this. How can we still make it highly personal and relevant for each grantee? And I think we're finding, good facilitation of those convenings is essential. We're finding that letting the grantees move towards themselves leading the conversations, exploring the topics that are important to them is the way we're going to make progress. We could tell them, these are some of the webinars that we came up with, but in the long term, if they don't drive the conversations themselves, it's not going to have as much impact.
And I think your question of how do we not only know what works, but we do it more quickly, also hinges on kind of coming together in spaces like this one, candidly, so that we all now know that Reggie needs a van. And I think that's so actually a really powerful example, and I hope that by the end of the day he gets a van.
All right.
Reggie.
All right, here we go.
Thank you. So I think that's a perfect example, right? Because I think one of the challenges I think there are a few challenges around these questions. One is that I think it makes a lot of people really uncomfortable to talk about child welfare services and the juvenile justice system and probation. And I think that discomfort has permitted like too many children and young people to suffer in the shadows, and it's just unconscionable. And we have to strip away that shame and bring these conversations out into the light, because hundreds of thousands of our kids are affected every year and millions are affected over time. And that should shame all of us to engage and to want to raise our hands to do whatever we can. I think one of the other challenges is that because it is multiple systems that we're talking about, and there's so many different people working on different sides of the challenge, we don't often come together. And yet when we do come together, it can be this real-time problem solving, because I am pretty confident that Reggie's van is not the only challenge that's going to be answered today. And so I think too, the question is, how do we just continue to find kind of the partners who've already raised their hands, but also unlikely partners who really could be part of this solution, so that the next time kind of we're together, there are even more people in this room. And I know we're thinking about that a lot at the Clinton Foundation, and I'm sure the county is too, and I know Aetna is, really at a national level. And I think that's also what helps accelerate, hopefully, not only knowing what we need to do, but then the doing of the work.
All right, I have one last question for each of you, so we can get on to the youth roundtable as well. But other than Reggie getting his van here today, really, what gives you hope to move forward? What is it?
Well, first and foremost, it's the young people that will go from next, who are not only empowering themselves, but really empowering all of us, kind of with their honesty and their courage. And I think it would be just a profound disservice kind of to the two young people who are with us today, and kind of the many more young people that I know kind of they represent through the process that you'll hear more about, to be anything but optimistic. Like, how could we be cynical if they believe that their energies and their time, their vulnerability, kind of their efforts can help change their futures and change the future of San Diego? So I think we have no choice at least that is a moral choice, but to be optimistic.
Amy?
We have hope because we're starting to see community turnarounds that are being led by the residents themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I look at, some of the programs that I was working on many years ago when I started my career in the research field, that were not resident driven at all. And they were not youth driven, even though they were really for youth. And it's giving me a lot of hope to see that now there is a trend, and we're starting to see results in our investments at the foundation, that when you empower residents, when you empower local entrepreneurs, let's say in Detroit, to start good food businesses, they suddenly begin to transform their communities, providing pathways of economic opportunity for all the people in those communities. And so we know that there are these places that we can look at and say, look at that. What began as a concern for a chronic disease prevalence and was addressed through, let's say, healthy food retail, is now creating viable career pathways for young people, for people who are coming out of incarceration, for formerly homeless people, to actually have a stable job, stable housing. So that's across sectors, and it was started by the residents themselves. The youth have a part in that. And so that's incredibly inspiring, and going and seeing the transformation, the physical transformation of the communities is what I would love to do every single day of the year.
And you're going to hear some of that shortly. Nick, how about you finally?
Yeah, it's really being in rooms filled with people like yourself and many other rooms like this that is filled with purpose, passion for public good, that is authentic. I was one of those kids in a family who immigrated to this country. And it were people like you, not in a farm, in the projects in Jersey. I said Jersey. We didn't have resources as a family, we didn't speak the language, we dressed differently, we acted differently. There were people who welcomed us, caring community. To me, it's paying it forward. And so, visionary leadership, right, is seeing what everyone is seeing and doing what no one else is doing at the cost of mockery by the present, for the betterment of the future. We're all going down mockery lane because no one thinks that this could be done. But when you have a community filled with people like you who are sincere, who choose to be here, because they have to be here, that gives me immense hope. Makes me work even harder with the 6,400 members of the Health and Human Service Agency, but more importantly, the 3.4 million San Diegans, plus the Clinton Foundation and all the others who have joined our San Diego family. So that gives me hope.
Yeah. And we're immensely lucky to have the Clinton Foundation focus their attention on us. So one more time, a big hand for our panel up here. Now I'm going to turn it over to Chelsea, and we're going to conduct the youth panel, and I encourage you to listen up big because there's some very powerful stories here, and if you want to hear what's happening at the RAW, the Grassroots Foundation, it's powerful stuff. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So Felicity, Jonathan, you join me. Sure, yeah. So I had the chance to be with Jonathan and Felicity earlier today, kind of with Reggie and Arturo at Aware, and I just was so inspired and impressed, and I think it will pretty quickly become evident why. And so, Jonathan, maybe we can start with you, and you can just share a little bit, kind of with our now larger audience, what you shared with me earlier about kind of what you kind of want people to really understand about how even sometimes well-meaning people can be part of a system that re-traumatizes the young people that are in it.
Well, first I want to start. My name is Jonathan Curiel. I'm also a Hispanic youth. I'm 18 years old. I recently got released from a juvenile center about 2 weeks ago. And as she said, it's not much of a problem for me dealing with it because I've been in, for a couple of years now, but I'm currently on probation and I am a documented gang member. And for me, the trauma is my family. I live with my grandparents, so I really don't have my own home or my own stability. I have a 1-year-old daughter, and I pledged my 4th waiver, so I usually have probation come to my home and speak to me and home supervision as I am on a monitor, and it's hard for me because I live with my grandparents, so it's not like they just come see me and talk to me and it all revolves around me. It's also revolving around them. I'm putting a burden on them, not much of a burden, but things they shouldn't go through, and there's times where, yes, they come to my home, and it came to a case where they do have to sometimes handcuff me in front of my grandparents, but it's the matter that my grandparents don't speak English. So what I focus on is just the respect for my grandparents and have them get that respect also when they come to me and speak to me, but for them as in, okay, you guys don't speak Spanish, let us get somebody to come in with probation, speak to you guys and run you guys in, because last incident, they weren't able to do that. And my grandma thought I was going to jail. So I basically tried to interpret that to them, that no, everything's calm, it's just due to my actions, I go through this, and probation helps me out a lot. I have this new probation officer, Officer Giannis, and she sits there and it's it's individualized with her. She won't just focus on my problems and focus on, okay, we got to do this. No, she'll talk to me and what do you want to do to help yourself do this? It's more of a, me and her have a little partnership, you know. She, instead of just being there and getting mad at me or, no, you're doing this wrong, she'll sit down with me and actually help me out. And honestly, I take that as a big role because I've never had that. You know, I've always, being on probation since I was 12, I've just had people telling me like, don't do this, don't do that, you gotta do it this way. And thanks to Project Aware and Youth Empowerment, I have this voice, you know, and now I can help others in my same situation.
Thank you. Felicity, maybe you can just share a little bit, kind of broadly again, what you shared with me about sort of your experience and what you wish kind of people kind of understood about your experience kind of in the system.
Yes, most definitely. First and foremost, my name is Felicity. I'm 19 years old. I've been in my process since I was about 15 years old. Starting with just doing restorative circles with Youth Empowerment and Project Aware. I myself come from a household of low support, low discipline. My mother was a drug addict and father was, I guess, a work addict, you can kind of say. Present, but I only lived with my mom. But that for me, I've had a lot of encounters with the law enforcement and also work, but my main thing is I have brothers. So at an early age, I kind of already had that animosity or something like that you could say towards probation. Only because when I was at a young age, I do remember having about 4 or 5 suited up officers busting in my room like, oh, go in the living room, you know, and I having no questions or no answers to nothing. And I'm like, just no explanation, no communication. Then having my brothers like handcuffed in front of me, it was a traumatizing event. But as I got older and I got to see the good parts of the other side of that door and how law enforcement work, it definitely opened up my eyes a lot for me to share with not only my family, but my friends too, on how we could come together or how you guys could give me y'all input and I could give it to the resources that I deal with. I have a condition called nystagmus, which means that my eyes move involuntarily, which causes it to be blurriness. Exactly why I have glasses on too, you guys. So it's just the light kind of messed with me a little bit. But I'm on SSI. Growing up, I didn't know that. But what it was paying for my household. So once I turned about 15, 16, and I tried to work, I couldn't work because if I work, they'll take away my check. My check is to support my household. I'm 19 and I still currently take care of my mom and my little sister. So it's very difficult with the system because to me that's unfair. I couldn't work, I couldn't make more money because the money I was working was going to my family, and of course that's not anybody's fault because at the time I did have a little bit dysfunctional parents, but it was still kind of unfair on my behalf when I grew up poor, a little bit homeless. So I went with my mom, I experienced the places of going to different welfare offices, going to different missionaries, trying to get vouchers for hotels, trying to get this and having them turn her down. Having them cut down on our food stamps when she has 5 kids, and it's just crazy. To have 5 kids all in one hotel room, But as I got older, like I said again, from the help of Arturo and Reggie, they gave me the skills to become emotionally literate. I learned that when I got mad, I didn't have to get violent. And when I got sad, I didn't have to go get hot. And that helped me a lot because I was able to start making an impact not only on my family, but again, my friends. I was able to share the wisdom, share the knowledge that, it's okay that we've been through these things, but it's getting better. Like I said, again, I take care of my mom, my little sister, and for me, it's just, for me to be I get the opportunities that I get and have a little sister to show her that because I didn't have no actual good role model growing up. It makes it's good for me, it makes me know that, like I'm doing work with the president's daughter, at 19. So it's like, it's hope for me to come from, when I growing up, I come from a household that you don't have the skills of a parent telling you could do this, you could be that, you could do this, you could do that. In other words, it's kind of like you could be from here, you could be from there, you could sling this, you could sling that. I come from a family with gangs, drugs, violence, and everything else. So for me to even be on this other side of the door and see the good aspects of law enforcement work, it's good, but there's not all good aspects of it. We are still not getting the help we need. When we go into these environments or these organizations and these atmospheres, they're looking at us as if we're just a number. As far as, I guess in his case, you can go to junior hall, you're looking at him just as if he's another inmate, another kid, and And not all, I not only speak on all, because there is good people in this world. Like I've learned with police officers that I didn't used to like police before I started doing the things that I did. But there's good people, but it's a domino effect, I like to call it. I started my process, and at the time my best friend wasn't in it with me. But she started seeing me change. She started seeing that I wasn't involved with gangs no more. I wasn't getting high no more. She started seeing that I was becoming able to articulate myself and talk in front of a lot of amazing people. So I was able to help her, and it took one adult just to help me. So I just want to say, the systems have most definitely did a huge effect, but my community, my reflection of my community is what helped me. My uncle knows my mom, my dad, it helped me a lot because he knew my background. He knew where I was coming from. He knew I wasn't just a statistic or I wasn't just another kid. He knew I had potential. He knew I could actually go somewhere in life. Like I said, again, I didn't have somebody telling me I could go here, I could be this, and I could be that. It's kind of just like you could be from here, you could be from there. You could sling this and you could sling that. Yeah.
So, Felicity and Jonathan, one of the things that I was so awed by listening to the two of you earlier today at Project Aware was really how committed you were, though, to ensuring that more young people could have stories like yours, and that a core part of that commitment is the trauma-informed code of conduct. So could you just talk a bit about what that is and also the process that you were engaged in, so that it would be kind of youth-defined, youth-led, youth-articulated? And maybe Jonathan, you can talk about this first, and then Felicity.
Trauma code of conduct, I would kind of it's 4 steps that we have came up with. I'm not gonna say that I know everything about, because I'm kind of new, but we have 4 steps. One is safety. If you can help me out here real quick, because it kind of slips out of my head. I'm kind of in a big moment right here, so.
It's safety, supportive staff, effective communication, and individualized support.
And for me, my main focus is individualized support, because like I said, since I was a youngin', I've never had that support. My dad was always gone doing drugs with his gangs and stuff, and my mom has 2 kids, she always did it on her own. So she would focus more on my older sister, and I was just the one running around playing and stop, do this, do that. And having the code of conduct now, being with Youth Empowerment and Project Aware, they help me out more on a personal aspect. It's not just, okay, we're gonna sit in a group, talk about our problems, and we're gonna speak to everybody about their problems. My mentor, Arthur, he'll sit here and call me on the phone and make me talk about my problems. He'll pull up to my house and sit me in his car, take me for a coffee, and it's that individual support that I need. I've never had that. My dad has 14 kids, 2 of my oldest brothers prison, little sisters all around the state, you know what I mean? And I've just never had that support, never had that basically mentorship. And being with youth empowerment is a really big thing to me, because I have a 1-year-old. I want my daughter to see a good role model. I never had a good role model. I've ended up getting into gangs at a young age, doing bad things, going in and out of detention centers from Minnesota to San Diego, and I've seen it all, and back then it wasn't really that much help. Now, my last stay at a juvenile facility, they sat down and they used the code of conduct. Even if nobody noticed it, none of my peers in their cells noticed it, I did. Because coming out, I came and they enforced me on it. They basically gave me more detail, more information, and I realized it. Yeah, there is some that, okay, you're gonna come back, you're gonna do this, give it like 2 weeks, you know what I mean? But there also is a lot that, I have a lot of post-traumatic stress. I would sit in my cell and cry. I would sit in that room and think about my daughter and basically put myself down, and they would come and give me that individual support. They would open up my room and sit there for 2 hours, stay up till like 12 o'clock at night on their shift, talking to me and making sure, look, you're a better person than you are. And this picture that I have that portrays me right now is not what I am. Deep down inside, I am somebody that's loving, caring, and I just can't bring that out. Thanks to them and Youth Empowerment, Project Aware, they sit down and they basically help me pinpoint every part of me that's good. Not just that picture that everybody sees like, oh, gang member, bad kid. I'm 18 years old. I've never had that help, and thanks to them, I have safety, peer support, I have everything I need. And if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be here at this moment.
And Felicity, maybe you can talk about what's so important to you about the code of conduct, kind of what parts really resonate and matter in your life.
Right, most definitely. But I guess such a big kind of, I know you asked him a little bit just how it kind of began, and just to answer up on that question, me and a couple other amazing individuals just thought that it would be a great thing to do, to just put our past experiences on a piece of paper, and I believe one of the amazing individuals that helped us make it, she said at the last kind of meeting that it's just not a piece of paper. Like, this is not a piece of paper. This is like living proof of like it's us, like on this piece of paper, you know, like we've actually spilled our emotions out, and we started off with 28 things, and we notched it down to 4. And in those 4, like I repeated again, was safety, supportive staff, effective communication, and individualized support. For me, those were all big things. Of course, those are the main factors. Who does not want to feel safe? Who doesn't want support? Who does not want to have effective communication with people, you know, and who does not want that individualized support? Right? Yeah, gotcha. Okay, I have to make sure I said that right. But out of those 4, I would most definitely say individualized support was my biggest thing, and that was because I did have a one-on-one relationship with somebody who actually had consideration and empathy for what I was going through. But also it was the safety part, and that was because, you know, and that's more why the safety, walking into a place with an open mind and feeling welcome. You know, I'm going in there, going into a place that values respect for privacy, but also self-expression. You know, letting me be who I am, not judging me by my race, my color, or my ethnicity, or whatever the case may be. You actually look at me as a human, as an at-risk youth, of course. Confidentiality, that was a big thing. And I said again, I started my process doing restorative circles. Their favorite saying in the circle is, what's said in the circle stays in the circle. That gave me a safe spot, which gave me the opportunity to open up, which gave me another opportunity to build relationships and bonds with other people. And of course, which helped me start my healing process and got me to where I am today. It was amazing to me, you know, especially and it's in my community. It's not nowhere else. I don't gotta kind of travel. I'm not around people I really don't know. My first time going in a group, I had about like half my high school in there. Like, what y'all doing here? You know, like, but you would never sit back and think that we went through the things that we went through unless you came and sat down in that safe spot that we had in our community, you know. Safety is always big to me. But if I can't trust you, I can't open up to you. And if I can't open up to you, then we can't build a bond. We don't, and I think relationships is really big. I'm big on relationships. I feel like that connects a lot of things, you know. Even when you don't know a person, you can start a conversation that can build you in a line and just, you know, have a good, effective communication. Boom, we got a bond right there. We found something in common, we can relate, and it's positive energy, you know. So safety most definitely was my biggest thing, and of course individualized support, because like I said again, having somebody to be there with you through the process of getting you to where you want to be, giving you the skills, not sugarcoating nothing with you, being transparent about everything, that letting you know that even though we messed up, that we could always fix our mistakes. You know, like I said again, I'm a youth that come from a household with not much love, not much support, not much care. And, you know, don't get me wrong, my mom's the best mom she could have been, you know, but some people aren't eligible to be the parents that they are. But there's other great individuals in the community that can give those children, you know, the skills that they need. So just most definitely safety was my biggest thing, and individualized support.
Is there anything else, Jonathan, that you kind of want everyone here in the room today to understand about kind of what gives you hope, and that maybe they can try to invest in helping more young people have that, or kind of one challenge that you think they can really try to help solve?
As you said in hope, my hope and motivation, as in being here, because it wouldn't be here if I didn't have my little 1-year-old. My little monkey runs around everywhere, and if she was here, she'd be grabbing all of your guys' shirts, you know what I mean? Trying to grab your cup, grab your pen, you know what I'm saying? And that's my motivation. She's my world. If it wasn't for her, I'd still be hanging out with homies, you know? Friends, people that say they care, but when things really hit the fan, it's nothing, you know? And it's not so getting into myself so too much, as in help, honestly, to help other people like me and just not myself, it's them. I would like to focus on them. I have so many groups that I'm involved in just to keep myself distracted. I have community wraparound, Pastor Sandoval. I have youth empowerment, Arturo, you know what I mean? I have Project Aware, Reg, he helps me out so much, you know what I mean? I met him on the first day and he's like, are you okay? Like, how do you talk like this? Like, look at you. I'm like, I'm tired. That pain is overcoming and I want to succeed. You know, growing up, my family told me I wasn't gonna be nothing and look where I'm at. Sitting next to her, I'm so happy. Growing up, I would see like her family on TV and I'd be like, man, that's so cool, you know, like they have a voice, you know, and being a minority, I never had a voice. And before I even came to program, nobody would listen. I would talk to schools and all they would do is get rid of me. I've been through 12 schools, just being back in San Diego. I went through 4 schools in Minnesota. Nobody would help. And to them, I have a voice. And I just take it as a blessing that they're using my voice and helping me express myself, because I don't know, you guys can see me, I'm a little shaky, you know what I mean? I get nervous, anxiety, you know, so it's just a big opportunity, and I would just not plead, but ask that for those that want to know how you guys could help my programs. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be succeeding. We need all the help we can get, you know what I mean? If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have tried to reach out. I wouldn't have tried to use my voice. I wouldn't have thought my voice was enough. And now Ms. Clinton's hearing my voice, you know, it's a big thing for me. It's a blessing, it's an honor.
Felicity?
Okay. Well, first I want to say I just want to give him like good props, because when we were sitting there, he was like, "You're gonna have to do a little bit more talking to me, Felicity." Like, I don't really know. My
anxiety was like this, like, you're not gonna do good. Don't do it. Don't talk. Shush. I was like, okay, I got this.
All right, he got it. Something that gives me hope most definitely, as I mentioned earlier, I think the main thing that pops up in my head is just my mom, my little sister. Again, the head of my household, I take care of my mom, my sister, and I love it. I really don't complain about it, but they will give me hope. In other words, my little sister really gives me hope. She keeps me balanced. She keeps me on track. You know, she's that risk I can't take for nothing. You know, that's what gives me hope. Knowing that like the things that I'm doing right here, and she sees me doing it, it's gonna give her inspiration. You know, it's gonna give her motivation. It's gonna want her to know that even though she comes from a lifestyle like this and a household like that she doesn't have, her lifestyle doesn't be like this, or it doesn't have to be like that. You know, it could be whatever you want to make it. Every day down there, she's talking about going to New York for school. Like, she wants to go to New York University. She wants to be an actor. I congratulate her. I give her every skill every single day. I never knock her for nothing. I sit back and I give her the skills to know, like, you can sit here and tell me how you feel. You know, the thing that changed my life was when I became literate to my own emotions. When I knew how I was feeling, when I knew that when I got mad, I didn't have to get violent. When I got sad, I didn't have to get hot. So the thing that give me hope is just my community, moral-wise, knowing that I'm giving back and that everything I'm doing may not be today, but down the line is gonna make a huge effect on other youth. And something that can help me is, I don't exactly know what it is. Kind of like what Jonathan said. You know, he's tired, you know? Me, I be having a lot on me, so it's like, I'm tired, you know? So anything will help me at times. I know right now I'm looking for a 2-bedroom apartment, because I only have 1 bedroom. I let my mom and my sister keep the room, and I sleep in the living room. And I guess that also falls in the Bill of Rights, how I want to, you know, me being at the time when I became homeless, I was 17. So no organization is going to actually be able to place an 18-year-old in the actual home without any rental history or any co-signer or whatever the case may be. So those obstacles was very difficult for me. But there was other resources, you know. There was people that gave me a voucher at only 18 for 2 weeks in a hotel, you know. They had consideration for me. So something that would help is just my community can always help by just, again, not only for me, but for the other youth that may be going through the same things that I'm going through. just always have consideration for us. Know that we are at-risk youth. Know that we do struggle, and we don't sometimes have the skills to say how we feel. And that's why at times we are acting out. That's why at times you may catch us in juvenile hall, or you may catch us in the streets. Or it's because we don't, like I said, or we don't come from the household that gives us those skills. So just to roll it up, not to ramble and rabble, but again, not you guys are the help. You guys are the one that's gonna not exactly make change, because I know the youth are the biggest thing, but these two are the ones that made changes in our lives. You know, it just took one of them to actually just make an impact. Just like it could just take one of you guys to make an impact. And my favorite word is a domino effect. Just help those around you, even if it's just your neighbor, if it's a local youth that you always see around, or if it's whatever the case may be, just always be in a, and not everybody's in a position to give, but always know when you give, you will receive. And just always try to give to those who need it. You know, I'm only 19, but I swear my friends be asking me for everything. Like, I'm just a grown woman, so I got all the money. And I'm like, you know, but I'm like, I get it though, I feel it. Like, I know it hurts. Like, you know, I had a friend who, her mom kicked out, like, she's fresh 18. And even though I knew she'd probably go back and live with her mom, it was like, I feel it. You don't gotta go back and live with your mom if you don't want to. You can stay here. You don't gotta pay me no rent. Just go to school. I was able to help her. Not exactly like that. I gave her a house to live in, even though I barely live in my own household. But it was just being able to have consideration for her and have empathy. You know, that it made a huge impact for her and helped her out a lot. So, yeah.
Well, I think clearly Felicity's her own domino effect. And I think it's... Jonathan is 18.
Just turned 18 November 28th.
A newly minted 18. And Felicity's 19. Like, they deserve to have their entire lives in front of them. And they deserve to be the author of those lives. And that they will only really have that chance if they continue to be able to be part of the safe spaces, the supportive communities, to have access to engaged staff and to individualized support that has helped them kind of be here and to speak so eloquently. I don't know why either of you were so nervous, because I think most 18 and 19-year-olds could not speak with the eloquence and the passion. The people who do a lot of public speaking are nodding, our county officials. You know, that you really have shown and shared so generously here today. And just to kind of everyone here, again, we're so grateful that you're kind of part of this conversation. And I know some of you are already deeply involved in this work, and Reggie has his van now. I know though some of you are new to kind of these topics and these questions. And I hope that you'll see kind of there are just two reasons here out of the many thousands of reasons here in San Diego why this really is worth your time, your energy, and your investment. Because if you go to Washington, D.C. and you drive by the National Archives, it says that the past is prelude, not destiny. And that is true. Like, right, we become what we repeatedly do. Like, Jonathan and Felicity are repeatedly doing now very good things for themselves and their families. Right? Her little sister and his daughter are going to have radically different futures because of the choices that they are making. And just think how much more powerful those choices could be if they had even more help and support. I'm incredibly proud to be up here with the two of you. You can definitely call me Chelsea. Miss Clinton makes me feel very old. I am proud to be on your team, and I just, again, kind of want to recognize that this is a team effort. And of course, Reggie, Artur, everyone is part of your team, but you're also part of their team. So would you please give Jonathan and Felicity a really big round? I'll give you a hug. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.